r/ask Reddit. What's something a teacher did at school that you're still mad about? When I was in 5th grade and my little sister was in 2nd grade, she wanted to pick some apple blossoms for her teacher. When she presented the little bouquet to her teacher, the teacher flipped out, lectured her for 10 minutes about why she shouldn't go on people's lawns to pick flowers, then threw the blossoms away in front of her. My sister was devastated, and I found her on the playground, crying. The apple blossoms were from our apple tree, in our front yard. First and last time I have ever yelled at a teacher. Totally worth the office referral. Why on earth would the teacher not assume your sister got the flowers from her own house? As an early elementary teacher, there's an easy way to handle the situation. The kid gives you the bouquet, you say, "Thank you so much, I love it. Where did you get these beautiful flowers?" If the kid says their own home, it's all good. If the kid picked them from random houses, you just say, "Well, I love these, but remember it isn't nice to take things from other people's houses." It really is that easy. Some teacher called me a waste of time and space during the end of school performance because I was too shy to sing. I didn't pick a singing role. I was like 10-11 years old. That is 100% the teacher's fault. I was once told I had broken the computer and felt scared using a computer ever since. 17 years married to a very talented software developer and 15 years in a technical role, and I only just have my confidence back. A boy in my class, about 8 years old, had dyslexia, so one time, the teacher gave a dictation. He had spelled all the words wrong and she was really mad at him, just shouting to him in the middle of the class that he should have tried harder. He didn't do well enough, etc. He was crying, and from that moment on I really hated her. My 2nd grade teacher told me I wouldn't amount to anything and would never graduate high school because I have dyslexia. Joke's on her. I graduated top of my class at my university for both my majors. Homework in 2nd grade was to learn our parents' real names instead of mom and dad. I came in and told the class my mom had a different last name than me. The teacher said no. Her last name is Jutsu, like yours and your daddy. That's what happens when you get married. I told her that it was just me and my mom and that my daddy never lived with us. She told the class that that meant they needed to pray for me and my mommy because we were going to hell. That was my last day at that school. Not nearly as bad as yours, but I had a classmate in 8th grade called Susie. That was her given name. It was what was on her birth certificate. It's what she was always called. She wasn't Susan or Suzanne, just Susie. I guess she was named for a relative that only went by that name. Well, 99% of teachers had no issue with this. All her paperwork said Susie. She wanted to be called Susie. All her friends and family called her Susie. Really not a big deal. Until Sister H came along. Sister H insisted that Susie was not her real name and that it had to be Susan or Suzanne, and that Susie was lying. Susie was like, no. Susie is my given legal name. It's what's on my birth certificate and it's what's on my baptismal certificate. Sister H was not having that and would call her Susan. Why this was Sister H's hill to die on I will never know, but it culminated in the principal getting involved, Susie's mother coming to the school, and Sister H not calling Susie by her name for the rest of the year. It would be upsetting if it weren't so incredibly ridiculous. I went to a high school that had a uniform. We were supposed to have our shirts tucked in at all times. I was walking into English class, between bells, tucking in my shirt because it came up out of my skirt while I was taking my cardigan off. My English teacher stopped me and asked, "Were you just tucking your shirt in?" I told her I was, and she promptly wrote me up for having had my shirt untucked. It was utter bullshit and I lost total respect for her. In my high school we had to tuck our shirts in unless it was a sweater. I even went and made sure with a teacher it was okay, and she said, "Why would you tuck a sweater in?" A few weeks later she wrote me up for not tucking in my sweater. I was not happy with her. They thought I was doing coke in class at the age of 14. Still bitter about that 5-day in school suspension. What kind of school did you go to that a 14-year doing coke was a thought? Same school that 11th graders are doing heroin in the bathroom. Had a sub convinced I was shooting up heroin in class. I was 14. Now what kind of 14-year-old is stupid enough not to do it in the bathroom? Primary school teacher asked me what the biggest number possible is. I said numbers go on forever, so there is no biggest number. My dad had told me that fact and it was interesting, so I remembered it. The teacher told me that was stupid and proceeded to grab one of the really cheap school calculators and type in as many 9s as could fit on the display. She then held it up in my face and said, "There, that's the biggest number there is." That still annoys me to this day. Holy shit. How did she graduate college? You'd be surprised. There was a guy in one of my senior level classes in college who had no idea that plants were alive. He thought they were like rocks. The teacher got up in the middle of my presentation, took my paper out of my hand, and in front of the entire class told me that I had plagiarized my assignment from the internet. The thing is, we didn't have the internet at that time at my house. I had worked through the entire assignment while talking about my ideas with my dad. It was super embarrassing. Made me feel better to learn that the next day my dad went into class and yelled at the teacher in the staff room in front of all his peers. I didn't have a problem with that teacher after that. Some teachers have a hard time accepting that some children who are articulate or smarter than they are. This is too good. Must have cheated is their default setting. In about 1966, when I was 6yo, our class was making some sort of valentines with multiple folds on which we were supposed to write little Valentine's Day messages. The teacher was wandering between the desks while scanning our projects. At one point I guess I had written on the wrong side of one of the folds. So she stopped at my desk, grabbed my hand and slammed it down forcefully on the desktop. It hurt and was very embarrassing. Duck her. I hope the 54 years she has lived since then have been miserable. If it is any consolation, she's probably dead by now. Told me that I wasn't worthy of anyone's respect. Broke a kid's phone and lied about it to assistant principals. Yelled at my choir director for playing the piano while there was AP testing going on, when it was her first year at the school and many of her students were present. The list goes on and on. Duck that guy. I would have loved someone playing the piano during tests. My 6th grade history teacher would clip his toenails in class. Now I have a foot phobia. My history teacher in 6th grade also used to clip his fingernails in class. Thank good that I didn't have to see his feet like you had. Graded the boys and girls differently. She was my middle school history and speech teacher, and we knew she was grading the boys much more harshly than the girls. We couldn't prove it while I was at that school, but we knew. A couple years after my class graduated, a group of students who had the same thoughts set her up in a grading sting. Essentially, 2 boys and 2 girls wrote the same paper for an assignment. Not literally the same, because that would have been cheating, but they all argued the same points in the same way, just with different wording and structure in their papers. The boys got C's and the girls got A's. They took the papers to the headmaster and had him read them with all of this in mind. She was asked to resign shortly thereafter. What still pisses me off is that nobody believed us when I was in school there. It was a serious source of stress for me then too, since I was very motivated by my grades and just could not figure out why I was struggling so much with her classes. I had a teacher like that. We had to work on surrealism in literature and I was pretty much good at it and my classmates knew it. One day we had a big oral exam and a girl came to me for help as she couldn't understand surrealism, so we took the hardest poem I could find, Fata Morgana by Andre Breton, and we went through all the concepts of surrealism. She went to the exam, got this poem, by chance, and got an A, 17/20 in France, which is pretty much impossible to get. Next day I got the exam. Same teacher, same text, Fata Morgana. Basically I went confident and gave everything the girl said plus more emphasis. Got a D, 9/20. So I told the teacher it's unfair, as I gave a lesson to the girl the day before and I added basically informations to something pretty good at the beginning. Well, you know, sometime there are things we cannot explain by just explaining them. Beach. I could have slapped her. Well, couple months later I saw her cheating on her husband in the streets of Paris, while 4 months pregnant, so I slipped the information casually to a couple classmates. I had a friend in college who really went above and beyond on a programming assignment. She thought of everything. Part of the teacher's test was trying to break the program. Done in class as a presentation thing. The teacher couldn't break it and marked her down for not following the rules. What my friends did was outside the scope of what was required, but nowhere in the rules did say not to, and if anything should have been given extra points for really digging in and learning more. So it was wrong because she made the program too well? Jesus, what a shitty assignment. I was terrible at maths as I'd been moved up to the top class and couldn't keep up. The teacher knew I was a donkey and would always ask me to make sure I'm listening, yet would laugh along with everyone else when I didn't know an answer or would get it wrong. Reminds of the time in 5th grade math. I said area of triangle is breadth times width, and I got made fun of by the teacher for a minute straight. What do you mean breathe? Making an exhalation noise, comma times width? I took a very difficult chemistry class in high school. The kind where only one student gets an A and you work your ass off to get a B. I had maintained a B for most of the year. When I forgot to write my name on a test, teacher was an extreme hard-ass and gave me a 0 for not writing my name, which brought my grade down to an F. To get my grade back up, he allowed me to ask for extra quizzes for the entire class, and every time we'd have the quiz he would announce to the class that it was because of me and they could all thank me. God, the revenge fantasies I had to get him back. Science teacher was a lazy shit that didn't even interact with us in any way. She'd write page numbers from a textbook on the whiteboard, and not even talk to us, until the inspectors came of course, when she'd have a wonderful interactive lesson planned for us. I was old enough to realize this was bullshit and refused to do any work unless she actually asked us to do so with her own ducking mouth. This went on until she got my parents involved. I told them everything, and they had a chat to the head about her. I don't know if anything came of it. Had a teacher similar to this, would give us printed worksheets all day every day, and I'm sure I said one time that it was a waste of paper. Never anything fun or interactive. All she did was dart around the room watching all of us sipping her cups of tea. Those ducking cups of tea. My English teacher in high school was the most disorganized person ever. She always had shit laying all over her classroom and never knew where anything was. She lost multiple students' papers all the time. One day she lost my paper and told me I didn't turn it in, and I argued with her that I absolutely did. She wasn't having it, so I got up in the middle of class, said, "This is ducking bullshit," and walked out. She called my math teacher, as that was my following class, and told me that she found my paper. It was a frustrating victory. Sounds like a teacher I had once gave the whole class detention because she left our homework in her car and forgot. She said it was an act of collective defiance. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.